we've now graded one size. In other words, you've taken your block that was a size 34 and you've learned how to grade it to a 36 using the formula we provided. Now, there is such a thing called a master grade. Now, a master grade takes you through a series of numbers or sizes, okay? Again, I've put my 34 in red because that is my sample size. Again, you could have a sample size of a 38 and then you would work accordingly. We are going to do a master grade from a 32 to a 40. What happens with this master grade, everything is done on one sheet of paper, okay? If you come down a bit, you'll see in my formula here, I've got the formula that we used before, okay? That's my sample size. I will use this formula to go to a 36. Remember, movement 1 is your dart, movement 2 is your side seam. We're going to grade right now our 36, then we will grade our 38, then we will grade our 40, and then we will go back and grade our 32. What I'm going to suggest you do is get your fine liner Koki pens and please work in different colors per size. You can see I've got a green pen and we're going to make a 36 which I've written in green, so everything is going to correlate. I'll do my 38 in purple, my 40 in blue and my 32 in pink. Okay, so we're going to work purely color to size. Okay, so moving down to our block where we've traced our block off, we have done our 0 vertical and we have done our 0 horizontal. We have a 0 on either side, they are squared, okay, and this is a size 34. Okay, so our formula says that we need to move 6.25 millimeters from your 0 vertical. Remember, you are working in full scale. You never work in scale sizes when it comes to grading. So 6.25, and you draw your line. Okay, these lines are going to look quite messy by the end of this exercise simply because we're going to do every size's lines here. 6.25, and we draw our broken line. Okay, remember your grading lines never join. Our next measurement is 12.5. I may feel like I'm going a bit fast, but I'm literally mimicking and repeating what we did on our on our last manipulation. So none of this should be too foreign to you just yet. Okay, so the green lines are my size 36 lines. 12.5 millimeters, full scale from your 0 vertical. Right, once you've done that, we will take our block. And like we did before, we are going to place it on the 0 horizontal, making sure it matches. And I'm going to move my 0 vertical out to the first place of 6.25. And that is my dart. Okay? So I'm going to draw half my waistline to my side seam, half my waistline back to my center front, and I'm going to mark the bottom of my dart. I'm going to slide out until my 0 horizontal is lined up and my 0 vertical is on my 12.5 line. Again, starting from just past the dart, up to my side seam, down my side seam, marking my hip nip, down to my hem, and marking it back into my hem. This then becomes a 36. Write your 36 in the color that you've worked with, okay? So we can see that is your size 36. Do not forget to draw in your dart. Okay, so there's our 36. We now need to do our 38. So let's go back to our formulas here. Okay, so as you can see, if we look at our sample size, we've done one jump to get a 36. Do you agree with me? Now, bearing in mind, our pattern is still a size 34. We need to go 36, and then we need to go to a 38. Can you see that? So we need to jump twice. So we need to formula times 2. Okay, so 38 is your formula times 2. Okay, so if we write that out, okay, number 1 is up and down 0, because 0 times anything is still 0. Out, 12.5 millimeters. 2 is up and down 0 and out 25 millimeters. Can you see that? I've times those measurements by 2, and that gives me a size 38. So what I'm going to do here is going back to my 0 horizontal. I'm going to make a line 12.5, but I know that my outside line is already a 12.5 because I've used that for my 36. Do you agree with me? So with my purple, I'm going to mark it. The next one is 25 millimeters. So from the 0, I'm going to mark 25 millimeters. Okay. A broken line, top and bottom. You should be getting the swing of this. Grading is not that complicated. Once you've got it, it's just a case of implementing it. So there, if we look at the top, our first purple line is the 12.5 millimeters. Our second purple line is our 25 millimeters, which will be our side seam. Okay, so just like we did before, we're going to place our block back on our original tracing. We're going to check that our horizontal lines are matching and our 0 vertical is hooked up, and we're going to slide across to the 12.5 mark. Okay, and we are again going to draw half of the waist, the dart, back to the center front, and the bottom of the dart. That's movement 1. Movement 2, we're going to slide out to the 25 millimeter mark, checking that our 0 horizontals are lined up. We are going to mark from again the waist, just from past the dart, down the side seam, all the way down. Beg your pardon, mine's moved, just give me a second. Back into the hem. That is your 38. You should be able to see the nice stepping now. Can you see how it's nice and it's even? If your stepping is not even, if one looks like it's less and one looks like more, there is something wrong with your grading lines. Okay, again, don't forget to mark in your dart. If you have a look up at the top here, we're going to zoom in quickly and show you. You'll see that I've got on my size 38, my 2 waist seams don't match. Do you remember the rule when we did the yokes? The rule is always take the middle road. So what you're going to do is you're going to place your block on, slightly in of your side seam, slightly in of the left side of your dart, and you're going to match it up and you're going to redraw it in. Can you see that? Okay, so that is your 38. Right, moving on to our 40, coming back to our formulas. Okay, so we times everything by 2 for a 38. It should be coming pretty easy now. We did 1 jump to a 36, 2 jumps to a 38, 3 jumps to a 40. So 40 is our formula times 3. So there we go. 1 is up and down 0. Out is 18.75 millimeters. And again, that is your dart. Remember, it's all in line with your dart here. 2 is up and down 0. And out 37.5 millimeters. Okay, so we can see that. So now again, these are the measurements we need from our 0. From our center front, we're going to measure these. I've changed color pen again. I'm in with the third color. I'm with my blue color. So let's start. Our first one is, remember, in full scale, 18.75. When working, it is quite easy to not be able to see the 0.75 and stuff. As long as you go between the 18 and the 19 millimeter mark on your ruler, you will be fine. Okay, so this is my 18.75. I'm going to write it there because my purple and my blue look a little bit similar and it's going to confuse me. My next one is 37.5. Okay, remember to mark it more than once because you won't get a parallel line. You'll see all your grading lines have to be parallel to the 0 line, plus they have to be parallel to each other. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's do our grading. It's exactly the same process, exactly the same formula, just different numbers at the moment. So again, block back on original score, checking 0 horizontal, 0 vertical, sliding across to the first blue line at 18.75, making sure my horizontals are in. I'm going to mark my waist, my dart, plus the bottom of my dart, and I'm going to mark along my waist to my side seam. I'm going to shift along further on my horizontal line, checking my horizontal line is still matching, up to the 37.5 centimeter line. Again, halfway on your waist, down your side seam, and along your hem. And that should be your 40. Now you should see a beautiful consistent jump here. As I said, if it's not looking even and consistent, you need to go back to your measurements. Okay. And you're going to draw in your dart at the front. So you can see for the sake of the exercise, we have our 34 dart, our 40, our 38, and our 36. Okay, so those are all your dart points. So right now, if you wanted a size 40 block, you would trace off, you see your center front remains the same, your center front here remains the same. You would follow the blue lines to the furthest outside line, go up your side seam, along the blue line at the waist, do the blue dart, and go back to center front. Okay, you can understand now why it's very important that your grading lines are broken and not a solid line, so that you don't get confused where center front is. Okay, the next size we need to do is a 32. Now a 32 is no trickier, it's not tricky, it's just understanding it. As you see, we have jumped one formula to get to a 36. Now that's also only one jump, but it's going the other way. Can you see that? All the arrows that face this way, you jump that way. The minute we jump to the left of the sample, you change the direction of your arrows. Okay, so our formula here will be exactly the same. The directions of the arrows are different. So one is up and down 0. Now I'm changing the direction of the arrow, 6.25. Number 2 is up and down 0 and 12.5 millimeters. So the measurements are the same, the arrow has changed direction. Okay, so this time, if that is my 0 vertical, my measurements become to the right of it, whereas before, there was my 0 vertical, my measurements came to the left of it. Okay, pretty simple, hey? So let's do that. Now I'm going to go slower here because it's not necessarily, it's clear, but it's not as clear. So here is my center front. All my measurements have been to the left of the arrow, left of my vertical 0. Now my measurements must go to the right. So my 6.25, I'm going to do to the right. And again, you do not join them. Okay, can you see that? All right, I'm going to do the same at the bottom. Okay, my next measurement is 12.5. I'm again measuring from my 0 line, 12.5, drawing my line, and at the bottom, 12.5, and I'm drawing my grading line. The very important thing to remember if we go up to the top here, when doing a 32, is do not connect your waist to those lines. Okay, this corner is still your center front. This line is still your center front. It doesn't change ever. Okay, in fact, just to drive the point home, I'm going to draw it in red. Okay, and you're always welcome to do your 0 lines in red. So you can see that is red. Okay, so now let's grade our size 32. So again, as always, we place our block back on our original draft, okay? But now instead of sliding it this way, I'm going to slide it to my right. So I'm going to slide it, checking my 0 horizontal is still matching, and that my vertical is on the 6.25 line, okay? I am not drawing from this point here. I've never drawn from that point there. I'm drawing from halfway between center front and your dart. I'm drawing in your dart, the bottom of your dart, and halfway to your side seam. Okay? I'm now going to shift to the 12.5 centimeter mark, checking that my 0 horizontals are there. And I'm then going to carry on drawing on my waist, down my side seam, marking my hip nip, all the way down my side seam, running my hem back into the other. So there is my 32. Okay, now what I want you to have a look is when we zoom out a little bit, I want you to see that the starting point of every size is your center front. Your center front does not move ever. So if you wanted a 32, you would go up the center front, along your waist, marking the pink lines, down your 32 and all the way back. I see I haven't drawn my 32 dart in. Let me just do that. If your center front moves, when you move your block out here to your 12.5 of your 32, and you draw that line in and you wind up honoring going along this line here, you have just made a size 34 again. Do you see that? It's imperative that the center front stays exactly where it stays for the purpose of growing and shrinking a pattern size. So this is a master grade at the front. You would master grade the back in exactly the same manner. The formula is exactly the same. I'm not going to do it with you, but I am going to encourage you to master grade your back as well in half scale. And then in fifth scale, you need to do your master grade both in front and back. And if I can bring the notes in, you can have a look. Again, it looks very disproportionate simply because, remember, your grading measurements are always in full scale. Okay, all right, so you can make a note somewhere on your thing, grading measurements full scale. All right, write your formulas down, keep things going, and see how your master grade is doing.